Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Pottstown. It's good to be with you this morning, whether you're here with us in this room or God only knows where in Zoom land, whether it's Sunday morning, June 5 where you are, or some other time, probably later, perhaps earlier. Ours is an inclusive religious community accepting of diverse views, welcoming to all. We support each other as we seek ethical, moral, and spiritual values for our lives. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your journey, we're glad that you are here today. Hearts and prayers this morning are with the people of Ukraine and the people of Uvalde, Texas. And you know, again, the blessings of peace and security. The sooner, the better. If you are with us for the first time this morning, you're especially welcome. Hope you'll stay for coffee hour and have a chance to start. Brother Carrie and I will try to answer your questions, but don't hesitate to ask anyone here about this congregation and what it means to them. We will have hymns this morning, but piano only, no singing. Someday, I hope and pray, we will sing together again. Sharing of joys and sorrows this morning will be done at the conclusion of the service after the recording has ended. This is the time for announcements. So if anyone has an announcement relevant to our congregation, please come to the front and use the microphone. Don't forget to introduce yourself. Or if you're on Zoom, raise your hand.
Hi, I'm Kay. I guess I'll give one more plug for this afternoon. At 2 o'clock, we are hosting Senator Amanda Capoletti and Senator Katie Muth. They're going to talk about their House Bill, Senate Bill 872, which is part of Go 100 PA for 100% renewable energy by 2050. So we hope to get a good crowd today, and everybody look around. Doesn't it look nice today? We were house cleaning and grounds cleaning yesterday, so thank you.
Now I invite you to take a deep breath, settle more firmly into your body, and listen to the sound of the chime. The chalice lit in our midst is a symbol of our liberal faith. Faith built on the foundations of freedom, reason, and welcome. Faith sustained by acts of kindness and justice. Faith that envisions a world flourishing with no one left out. Faith that inspires the living out of goodness. Faith that requires thoughtfulness and compassion. Faith with wholeness and integrity. This tiny flame is the symbol of the spark of all this within each of us. Thank you, Alan. Look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its deep course lie all the verities and realities of your existence, the bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of beauty. For yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision. But today, well lived, makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day. Switch. Over there. No, now it's not. Oh. Should I start over? Okay. Video. of reading. You should find it in the service. Here is what a religious community can provide.
A place to contemplate and care what it is. Why am I alive here and now? Why does anything exist at all? What meaning can I give to myself today?
A religious community can be with you when you are going through hard times.
Someone to hold your hand in the hostile waiting.
A religious community can give you the opportunity to participate in beautiful music and to be moved by a prophetic voice.
Working together with others like members of society and the world are peaceful and sustainable.
A religious community need not ask you to believe what you know ain't so.
But to challenge you and remind you that the search for the discovery did not end 2,000 years ago.
And what about the children?
The religious community keep their required lives and introduce them to great stories and help them to internalize requirements living together.
Yes, religion can mean different things to different people. And no, there is no one correct definition of religion. But we humans have not yet outgrown our need for religion. Now, I have a story, Pandora's Box. If there's any children here, they can come up front. I don't see any children. Here's a child. Is this on?
Yeah.
Let's use that one, sorry.
There's a switch on the bottom.
What's going on?
No. it's not.
No.
There we go.
There. There we go.
Oh,
Okay.
that's it.
Now, I need a volunteer to be Pandora. When your time comes. Once upon a time, many, many years ago, life was very different. No one was happy, no one was sad. Can you imagine life like that? No one laughed, no one cried, no one said, I love you. You hadn't heard about love. No one was ever angry. No one looked forward with excitement to what was coming next. No one was afraid. You want to live on a land like that?
No.
No, I don't think so. Life was very simple. There was no excitement, no joy, no discipline. They didn't have any schools. They didn't have any libraries. They didn't have any churches. But you know what they did have?
What?
They had a box. It might have looked like this. They didn't know what was in the box, but they didn't have curiosity. They had been told, don't open the box. No one knew who told them that or why. It was before any of them were born. Don't open the box. That order had come so long ago that there was no memory at all within the people of its origin. All they knew was that they should follow the command, don't open the box. What would you do in this situation? One day, a young girl, her name was Pandora, happened to be near the box. And as it happened, no one else was around. What do you want her to do? Should she open the box? We don't know anything much about Pandora. We don't know if she was forgetful. We don't know if she was disobedient. Perhaps she wasn't very bright. We don't know. Pandora is a mystery to us. But she looked at the box, and then she looked away. Then she looked at the box again. Then she looked away. Then she came closer to the box. Then she went away from the box. Then she came closer to the box. Then she picked up the box. Then she set it down again. Then she picked up the box again and looked at it. Then she looked away. I'm not sure what happened, but all of a sudden the box was open. And all kinds of things came flying out of the box.
They surrounded
And now love and fear and all kinds of things escaped. Should Pandora put them back in the box or let them fly about? I don't know if she tried to put them back or not, but it doesn't matter. She couldn't put them back. Love and fear and hope and hatred were among us, and our lives changed forever. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Pandora. Thank you for your attention. And if you don't know what the name Pandora means, ask a neighbor, or ask Carrie if all else fails, or ask your phone.
I'm not asking.
Okay. But thank you all very much. Thank you, Pandora.
Would you like me to try to bring back the box? Or I'll come back to you?
Freely have we received of gifts to minister to our needs of body and spirit. Gladly do we share a portion of this offering will now be received. What is given in love is received in gratitude. May generosity ever be the spirit of this congregation. Let us pause in silence to ponder the words of Albert Einstein, quoted in the Thanksgiving Haggadah of the American Jewish Committee. After which, Carly will play a prayer for this house, number 1. Strange is our situation here upon earth. We come for a short visit, each of us. We don't know why. Sometimes we feel there must be a purpose, perhaps even a divine purpose. We're not sure what that would look like. But let's set aside the unknowable and the mysterious and acknowledge or declare that we are here for something beyond ourselves, something larger, something more lasting. We could make a list, but would we ever come to the end? Let us pause in silent contemplation. Let us pause to listen. For what? We're not sure. Amen. this book, A House for Hope, Promise of Progressive Religion for the 21st Century by John Behrens, the former president of the Unitarian Universalist Association, Rebecca Ann Parker, the former president of Starr King Seminary, or UU Seminary in California. This is a chapter, part of a chapter called Life Together by Rebecca Parker. Let the walls of our theological house symbolize the shelter of community. May they be strong to keep hate out and bold love in. Lewis Untermeyer implores in his poem, Prayer for This House. Within the embrace of sacred gathering places, people come together to form connections with one another and with that which is holy and life-giving. Whatever the character of a community structure, it functions to support the survival and thriving of a people. There is no life apart from life together. Life is relational through and through. Everything exists in interaction and interdependence with everything else. The question is not whether we are social connected beings. That is a given. The question is how we shape our modes of being with one another, with the sources that uphold and sustain life. Ecclesiology, from the Greek word ecclesia, called together, is the theological theme that speaks about religious community. Ecclesiology asks, what is the nature and purpose of a religious community? What brings the religious community into being and holds it together? How does the community define the relationships and roles of its members? What rituals and spiritual practices align the community with what it understands as the sacred, the sources of life? The perils of religious community have left many liberals and progressives convinced that organized religious communities cannot be trusted. They pose too many dangers and break too many promises, that they fail to embody what they profess and disappoint those who invest their lives in them. Such wariness about religious community puts liberals and progressives in sacred company. The Hebrew prophets condemned religion when its priests soothed the privileged but neglected the poor. I hate and despise your solemn assemblies, God announces in the book of Amos. Take away the noise of your singing, stop your ritual sacrifices. Instead, let justice roll down like waters. The ecclesiological questions for progressive people of faith are these: is it really preferable or even possible to be religious alone? Or is there an importance to religious community life that needs to be claimed anew while protecting against the liabilities and dangers that the community life imposes? I strongly believe the answer to the first question is no. The answer to the second is yes. We need life together, and liberals should be wise to invest in rebuilding the walls of community. Congregations can be communities of resistance, countercultural habitations, in which people learn ways to survive and thrive that can resist and sometimes even transform an unjust dominant culture. Second, congregations can provide an embodied experience of covenant and commitment among people. They can foster freely chosen and life-sustaining interdependence. Now, because it's June, Carly will play Sweet June Days. Here. This question could mean many different things depending on what we mean by we and what we mean by here. At one extreme, it could mean why are there 15 or so of us together right now in this room and others scattered in Zoom rooms around. The other extreme, it could mean why does humanity exist on this planet? Or even why does life exist in the universe? But avoiding the extremes and asking why we have a Unitarian Universalist congregation in Pottstown, Or more generally, I'm asking why we have Unitarian Universalist congregations wherever they happen to be. I'm not going to talk about Pottstown in particular. Why are we here? We're here for community. Back in the 1980s, when Carrie and I, with Amanda and David, were now both sides of 50, but were children then, when we lived in Northern Virginia, a bus ride from the nation's capital, I was part of 4 different communities. There was the workplace community, the Department of Justice and the Civil Rights Division's voting section. There was our neighborhood community at Lake Park. David played Little League baseball, so we were part of the Columbia Pike Little League community. The 4th community, of course, was provided by our church, the Unitarian Church of Arlington, which officially changed its name sometime back in that era to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Arlington, reflecting the consolidation of Unitarians and Universalists about a quarter century earlier. The voting section was a good place to work. And I enjoyed having lunch with colleagues, but it wasn't a community. We were there to do our jobs. Part of our lives was there, but not our whole lives. Work was fenced off. I enjoyed Lake Barcroft. The Lake Barcroft community consisted of families living in houses built around what had started out as a reservoir for the city of Alexandria, the lake created by a dammed up stream. During our summers back then, we did a lot of swimming in that lake, at the beach a couple blocks from our house. But we knew only a handful of families living there. It was a place of convenience. The whole family was involved in Little League. David was the second baseman, his big sister Amanda was the scorekeeper. I was an umpire, and Carrie and I together served as vice presidents of the league, responsible for fields and scheduling. We got acquainted with David's coach and other families with children on the same team. It was a community for us. But then David turned 13. His Little League days were over. And while I could have continued on as an umpire, it wouldn't have been the same. But the church provided a real community for us. We made a lot of friends there. All 4 of us were involved in church activities. For me, music, singing in the choir, was the earliest and most important. I went on to get involved with money and membership and a bunch of other things. On Sunday mornings, I would leave for church before the rest of the family, bicycling to church for the choir practice before the early service. I had been unchurched in my earlier young adult years. Theological differences had led me to part company from the Presbyterians. I hadn't yet been invited to the UUs. I think I would have benefited during those years from being part of a religious community. When my father was diagnosed with lung cancer just a few months after I graduated from law school and moved to Washington, it certainly would have been good to have a pastor to talk to, and older church members who've been through what I was going through. Might have helped me learn to talk to my father, my mother, and my brother about what each of us was going through. At the same time, I was confronted by the Vietnam War and the draft. I'd gone to law school to avoid Vietnam. The law school was over and the war continued, and I was 1A. I could have used a supportive religious community. A few years later, when I was contemplating marriage, pastoral consultation and support might have saved me, and Catherine too, from a painful experience. Why are we here? To go deeper. The church, the Unitarian Universalist congregation in particular, can provide the community we need, but can provide more than that. 2 basic religious questions are, first, what shall I do with this one amazing but time-limited life that, by the grace of God, of whoever I have been given? And second, what can I make of the reality that someday I will die, that I will be gone forever? These questions require us to go deeper, deeper than church potlucks, wonderful though they may be, deeper than volunteering for any of the myriad tasks that have to be done to keep the church going, as essential as they are. One way we go deeper is through intellectual activity, through sermons, lifespan faith development books, small group discussions. I started going deeper at a young age. When I was no more than about 10, I decided to read the Bible from the top. I don't remember how far I got before I abandoned the project. Trying to read the Bible by oneself without guides or commentary is a misguided project at any age, and an impossible one for a 10-year-old who never make it through Leviticus. Later in high school, I wrote a major paper on the immortality of the soul. My conclusion was a skeptical one. My interest in theological topics led me to major in philosophy. My courses included philosophy of religion and medieval philosophy. Lately, I've been reading Witness at the Cross, a beginner's guide to Holy Friday, to Amy Jill Levine, a Jewish New Testament scholar from whom David took a course when he was an undergraduate at Swarthmore. The May 30 New Yorker briefly noted a new book by Bart Ehrman, Journeys to Heaven and Hell, which I hope to acquire and read this month. 8 earlier books by Ehrman are on the bookshelf in my study. The second way to go deeper is through spirituality. For me, this means music, especially music in church. Music in church. The first week in April, the Wayne Oratorio Society, which I've been singing with since our return from Arkansas 11 years ago. We performed The Peacemakers by Carl Jenkins and the choral finale of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, setting of Schuller's Ode to Joy. Jenkins draws from texts ranging from the Bible and the Quran to Gandhi, Mandela, Martin Luther King, and Mother Teresa, among others. The combination of the powerful words, some even in English, and the powerful music, Beethoven and Jenkins about as far apart musically as you can imagine. The voices, the orchestra, the powerful magnificent organ, the huge stained glass window in the back of the sanctuary, the architecture of the sanctuary. It was a moving experience for me and for everyone else present. If anything was spiritual, that was. And probably that church had never had an electric guitar played in it before, but Jenkins used the electric guitar in his piece. And if Beethoven had had electric guitars, he probably would have used them too. The third way to go deeper is through institutional involvement in Unitarian Universalism. My path led me from singing in the Arlington Choir to leading the annual pledge drive to serving on the church board, serving on the district board, to the faithful step of preparing for Unitarian Universalist ministry. But there are many paths that can be followed. Unfortunately, most of them do not lead to ordained ministry. I distinguish 3 different ways to go deeper into religion, but we don't have to think of them as distinct, separate endeavors, separate realms. They can and usually do cross over. They blend. They can be mutually reinforcing. Why are we here? To bless the world. That's why we're here, to bless the world, to make the world a better place, to promote the recognition of the worth and dignity of every person. And we think especially today of those in Uvalde, Texas, those in Ukraine. To share the world with all its inhabitants and to preserve it for future change. How do we love God? By loving God's creation, by loving those made in God's image. As Unitarian Universalists, we have a variety of views about what awaits us in the inaccessible future. But we agree that our focus should be on this world, not on some other world, some other realm beyond death, beyond space and time. The kingdom of God, or the realm of peace, justice, and sustainability, will be here, if anywhere. And God won't do it for us, it is up to us. We are God's hands. You can list ways that we can further this project as well as vote, be involved in the political process. This is yet another election year. We in Pennsylvania will be electing a new United States Senator. Promote vaccination, promote education here at home and around the world. Military means alone will not create a safe, stable world. We need education for all. And this includes girls and women, or even especially in Afghanistan. Take global warming seriously and act accordingly. Let's put people to work constructively. There's so much that needs to be done. Global warming prevention and remediation, infrastructure restoration, development, healthcare, scientific exploration here at home and on Mars and beyond. We have so many people in this nation and on this planet whose potential is being wasted. And so much money that is idle but could be used to good purpose. If Jesus really said that the poor will always be with us, I don't know what he meant by it, or why he said it. But really, there's no excuse for the amount of poverty that exists today in this nation and around the world. While eliminating inequality may be impossible, we can certainly do a whole lot more to enable those on the bottom to improve their lives and the lives of their children. And we can certainly do a whole lot more to encourage those whose wealth exceeds the median by an unbelievably high factor to use that wealth for the public good. Some things we can do as a congregation, others we can do in cooperation with other UU congregations, or as a denomination, or in cooperation with non-UU congregations and denominations. And individually, through volunteer activities and our voluntary contributions, through our paid work and through how we live our day-to-day lives, we can make a big difference and set a good example. Why are we here? To spread the good news of Unitarian Universalism, and thus to welcome others through our doors. Why would we want to do this, you may ask? We have a cozy little congregation here that meets our needs. You never know who might respond if we broadcast our welcome. We're a cozy little denomination, a small percentage of the nation's population, but it meets our needs. And despite our small numbers, we do have our influence. Why do we want to share the good news of Unitarian Universalism? Well, if it's good news, if it's good, why wouldn't we want to share it? Now, if sharing it with others meant like there'd be less left for us, like fudge, that would be another matter. But we can share it widely, and we don't lose it. It is still ours. I didn't find Unitarian Universalism until I was 38 years old. Is it my fault not going through the doors that were in plain sight? Or did others have a responsibility not only to let me know that such a thing as Unitarian Universalism existed, but also that I would be welcome, might benefit from it, and appreciate it? There was the high school friend who explained that his family no longer attended the Presbyterian church because now there was a Unitarian church in our town, and his family was Unitarian, not Presbyterian. That he didn't invite me to come with him to try it out. During my 3 years in Cambridge, I must have walked by the Unitarian Universal Church hundreds of times. It never once occurred to me to go up its steps and through its doors. Should they have stood outside passing out flyers and encouraging students to come on in? In my second year in Washington, I lived almost around the corner from the National Memorial Universalist Church on 16th Street. I was never curious enough to explore what might be going on inside. They didn't seem to have any interest at all in inviting their neighbors to join them on Sunday morning. A few years later, I lived just a few blocks from All Souls Unitarian Church, also on 16th Street. And some of my neighbors in the Ontario apartments were members there. If I ever entered that church, it was either for a political meeting or a concert. I won't claim that everyone needs to be part of a religious community, but that one cannot lead a satisfactory life without confronting basic religious questions of how we should live and how we should respond to the reality of inevitable death. But I think being part of a religious community can be beneficial for many people, probably for most people. And for people like me, whose rationality leads them to reject some apparently basic ideas of Christianity, Unitarian Universalism provides the best, perhaps the only possible religious community. So let the good people of Pottstown, of Chester, Montgomery, and Berks County know that we're here and we welcome them to join us. Let us not hesitate to invite our friends and neighbors who do not have a church home, who feel out of place where they are now, to join us on Sunday morning. Let me take a short break and sit down. We are to bless the world. We will be more effective, not just here in Pottstown, but across the nation. There were more of us. Newcomers bring with them their experience, their energy, their ideas. Why are we here? To provide a place of rest, place of escape from the pressures, the worries, crises of the world, I'm sorry. I'm not doing well standing.
Oh. Yeah, do you want the mic and sit down in the chair?
Okay.
He does it backwards. Why are we here? To provide a place of rest, a place of escape from the pressures, the worries, the crises of the world and the family, a place of sanctuary. 1 hour a week of relief, of respite, perhaps 1 year out of 7 of sabbatical. And if you sleep through the sermon, that's what you need. It's okay. I do it myself occasionally. Now, Dave wrote those words, but it's true of me as well. Not an escape from the world. We are part of it, part of the problem, and I hope part of the solution. Not an escape, but a time out. And when our time is up, when our days have come to an end, when our church provides a place of memory, a place of eternal rest. Let me sum up. Why are we here? Why do we give our time and energy and money to maintain a Unitarian Universalist presence in Pottstown and in hundreds of other places across the country? Here are 5 answers to that question, and there are others, you can be sure. 1, to provide a supportive community. 2, to enable those who are part of our community to go deeper into Unitarian Universalism, to go deeper in our thinking, to go deeper in our appreciation of the world and of the blessings we have received. 3, to be part of a religious community, part of an association of congregations that seeks to bless the world, to help move us towards peace, justice, and sustainability. 4, to help share the good news of Unitarian Universalism, that love is our doctrine and service our prayer, that you don't have to think alike to love alike, to invite others to join us, to assure that Unitarian Universalism will be available in the decades and dare I say the centuries to come. And finally, to provide a place of retreat, rest, and renewal. Amen. Our closing hymn is number 287, Faith of the Larger Liberty. Forward to actually extinguish the flame, will you join me in the words found in your order of service? We extinguish this flame, but not the light of wisdom, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and in our hands until we are together again. And now, may the striving for wholeness bless us. May the assurance of beauty inspire us. May the love and the power of love sustain us. May the peace of this community preserve our going out and our coming in from this time forth until we meet again. Amen. Oh. And now, with the camera turned off,